All right, so we're going to do the chapter 3 PowerPoint here. We're group number 2, and I'll start off with introducing myself. My name is Zach Barrett. I'm the 712 principal at Twin River Public Schools in Genoa, Nebraska. And then I'll go ahead and let Angie.
I'm Angie Bauman. I'm the Human Resources Director and also in charge of accreditation at Norfolk Public Schools.
And good afternoon, I'm Todd Halverson. I'm the high school principal, 9 through 12 at Plattsmouth High School in Plattsmouth. And we're going to talk about our first chapter 3 of evaluating and selecting applicants. Obviously, all of us who've been in the business a while realize that the importance, the number one thing is finding good teachers, good personnel, people to work with our students on a daily basis. Some of the sources of information that we use, obviously we start off with our application form. One of the keys to the application form is to make sure that there's nothing on there that can be discriminatory. We want to see what the license and certificate of the applicants are, because sometimes we can utilize a dual certified personnel that might be able to come in and help us in 2 different areas. The transcripts, the idea of the transcripts are for us to make sure that they've had all the approved courses of study and can be certified in the area of which we're looking. The references, when you think of references, it's previous supervisors. It could be other people that you know of that they've worked with, or other people that you know of. And then it's always good to contact them by phone. Sometimes you can get more from a phone conversation than you can by reading just a letter of reference, and you can get a lot more information through that phone conversations. The test scores, the praxis, sometimes we look at that, but as we found out, the praxis is now going to be going away. And then obviously the background checks that are done generally through central office when we're serious about hiring somebody. They do the background checks and then getting the interview put together and lining up all the information you need for your interview team.
All right.
All right, our second objective in chapter 3 is examining the steps in interviewing teachers for selection. So starting out, everyone's gonna do a screening interview, and that looks different in different districts, but you're going to review their educational background, make sure they have what you're looking for. A lot of districts will either in their screening interview via phone call or as part of the application process have some questions about their beliefs in teaching, their philosophy. So as part of the application, some districts, including my own, will have those questions be required before they can even submit their application. So that you can gather some information before you're even contacting to set up interviews. And another thing that you're always looking for in that screening interview is what ability would this candidate have to contribute to your school's instructional program. The next piece then will be a selection interview. So you're trying to find out if someone is a suitable fit in your district, looking at their experience. Are they a first-year teacher that has some strong qualities versus a tenured teacher that's been in a similar situation for what you're filling? Really knowing that experience does make a big difference. You're always looking for that good fit for the staff that you have, the students that you have, your families, your communities, and always looking at possible contributions. Is it someone that could contribute in addition to teaching in an extracurricular area or a club area, or is there something else in your district that you're looking for something extra with? When you start putting together an interview team, it's really important that your interview team knows in advance what will the setup of the interview be, what will it look like as far as an agenda for the interview, and letting them preview all of those questions before the candidate is sitting at the table, so they know what they're going to be asking, making sure that you try and stay on pace. That does vary if Some candidates are very brief with their responses, but other candidates are pretty lengthy. But the way you control the pace of the interview with the feedback you give and the conversation you engage in can also make that interview get a little lengthy. So just being aware of that. And it's really important to be taking notes as candidates are providing their responses so that when you look back, you remember who made which statements, especially when you have numerous candidates that you'll be interviewing in the same day. The chapter talked about technical issues, which they really referenced things like getting confused by the end of the day of which candidate said which thing. So that was another area that they mentioned, wanting to take notes and make sure that you're able to keep all of the information straight so that it doesn't all just blur together. With reliability and validity, just with the reliability, when you have your interview process and questions all put together, your teachers should come to a fairly, and your team should come to a fairly similar conclusion if everything was reliable, because they're all sitting in the same interview, those on the team, hearing the same responses and seeing the same reactions from the candidates as you're asking those questions. So that'll really help you determine if you have a pretty standardized interview format. With the validity piece of an interview, really your questions should provide you with some meaningful feedback. So, when you start reading through those questions for an interview, some of them sound like good questions, but are you really going to gain information that would help you select the best candidate? So making sure that all of those can provide you some good information. And in the chapter, it talked about some different reactions that different interview teams could have that might color their judgment. One example they gave was the halo effect, where maybe a candidate gives an outstanding answer at the beginning of the interview. So regardless of what they say the rest of the interview, you're really holding them up on a pedestal because of their initial response. Or it could go the other way, right? They bombed one question, so the rest of the interview, you're really not hearing what they're saying. You're just thinking, nope, this one's not going to work. So just being aware that those types of things could happen. Also observing body language of your candidates. So there's going to be things like eye contact, facial expression, their animation, how long they pause. All of those things can really help you determine if you think they're going to be a big fit and how qualified they are for the specific position that you have. And then there was a little bit in the chapter about interviewing for specific purposes, different types of interviews, like designer interviews that might be put together if you're specifically, I think the example they gave, looking for someone to teach in an urban school. There might be specific qualities you're looking in candidates for that fit. So your interview might be designed for that. Critical incident interviews where you might provide a candidate with a specific incident that happens and then have them talk you through how they would handle that, how they would react, who they'd get involved, what they would do, and then use that information to help you determine a good fit. And then perceiver interviews, which you'd have standard questions for all of your candidates, and then you'd rate them on themes. So there might be some on classroom management or leadership skills, and you kind of try and look at all of the data that way. And then in the end, needing to do some sort of rating for an applicant to get feedback from your interview team. Sometimes that's just gathering note-taking, so you can, as the leader, take a look at what all of your interview candidates took notes on, or you may use more of a checklist or rating scale to kind of determine what areas there are strengths and what areas that possibly a candidate might not be a good fit.
Yeah, I know one of the things that our interview document has the questions, notes, and then one thing that we do have on there is like a rating of a 1 through 4 rating for them, so that everybody on the team can kind of, at the moment that the interview is happening, circle 1, not a great answer, 4, an exemplary answer, and then we can kind of use that to kind of go back and look at that as well. So that, I know that's one thing that we use in our district anyways.
Couple of things that to highlight this objective as well. When I'm interviewing, I always look for that person who's able to build relationships. I always feel really good about bringing people in who can build relationships, because in each district, even within our 3 districts of each one of us, with Angie being in a large district, I'm in a medium-sized district, and then Zach being in a smaller district, there's different fulfillments that we look for from our teachers and how they're going to fit into things. And so being able to build those relationships, because the expectations in the classroom could differ from district to district, but being able to bring someone in who can build relationships with the student, staff, parents, and then being able to teach them what we call our non-negotiables at Plattsmouth. And then the other piece that we do is and is hit on a little bit here also, that teacher fit interview kind of gives you some of those things going into the interview, and you start to look at the applicants you have, and that might help you if there's a really close decision to be made, that might help you as well. So lots of different things that go on in the interview process.
Anything else on this slide before we go to the next one? All right. So the third objective here is examine equity in staff transfer policies and the effects of student learning. And one of the things that the chapter talks about is that a lot of times, a lot of the movement that happens for positions will be filled within district between, teachers who will move from one building to another within the same district. So transferring happens often, and that's how a lot of positions do get filled. Then it kind of dives into how to keep it as equitable as possible. Why does the teacher want to transfer? Is it maybe the building is closer to their home, so that's a reason they'd want to be closer to that building. Maybe that building is a nicer building, has more updated facilities, has more resources, that type of stuff. So there's a couple things that could help morale. I've also seen where it can be a negative towards morale, because there are certain people who, when they're within the district and they want to transfer to a position, and then they don't get that position, but somebody else in the district does, then they feel it can hurt morale, and feeling that maybe certain people were picked as favorites, or that they had a better connection or whatever. So it can go both ways there. And then it might slow down the hiring process, going through all of the people that are trying to transfer, as well as the people who want to apply out of district. You run into the possibility of underqualified teachers in some schools. So again, the next bullet point there, teachers gravitate towards the school that has better conditions, facilities, programs. And so one of the things you might run into in your district is people wanting to go to, say, the newest elementary school in the district. And your more qualified teachers will be, going for those positions, which then leaves, the openings at the other building, where you may have to hire some younger or inexperienced, or maybe not as quality teachers for those things. I know, like at our district, we're one building. We're a K-12 building. So our elementary and our high school is all connected. So as far as transferring, jobs or positions in our district, you're not going to a whole new necessarily site within our district, but I would imagine it's a little bit different, both in Todd and Angie's districts being a little bit bigger than mine. I know one of the former districts that I worked for had high school, middle school, and then 4 elementaries, and a couple of the elementaries were new, updated. And so you saw a lot of times people would want to move to those newer buildings, which left the older elementary buildings, in a more difficult spot, as well as some people wanting to transfer and come to the high school because it was a newer building. So it makes sense that people want to work in, nice buildings with nice facilities. but as a district, you have to make sure that you're still keeping quality staff in each one of your buildings and getting those things in a good place. So Angie or Todd, do you guys have anything for transfer policies within your district? Or
Zach, I think you said it well. It just varies on the size of your district. You know, in Norfolk, I have over 700 staff, so, and 11 different buildings. So their transfers happen, but really not very often. I think people find comfort in knowing the people they work with, but there are times that people do request transfers, and we try and honor that if we can. But I think your policies that you set up around that do have to vary based on your district size.
Generally, the transfers we get, having been in this district 15 years, I've been a part of hiring probably 45 or so% of the staff in the district, just because of where I've been in all three buildings. In the last 5 years I've been at the high school, we've had 3 transfers from the middle school up to the high school. And it's been a good fit for us because I knew what I was getting as a teacher, and 2 of them, they transferred because of the head coaching position. So that also benefited us there as well. And then we did have one who transferred to the middle school based on their students, their own children were going to be students there, wanted to be in the same building, those types of things. So but what we do is when we do have an opening, kind of like this chapter talked about, we put it on our school website and allow them to present teachers to look into it, and then we make a decision from there, and then it goes live to whoever would like to apply for it.
so you guys open it up to transfer first and then open it up to everyone, or how do you guys do that?
Yes, at Plasmith, it's opened up in district first to
Yep.
see whoever's qualified, and generally, if they fit the position and fit what we're looking for, in district, we'll get the first chance at it, but it's not necessarily a given that you will be.
And that's what we do here, even though, like I said, even though we're all still in the same building, you know, if there's a position that a person would like to move to and they're qualified, and they're already an employee of the district, they have first priority of being able to put their name in for that position. So it was the same way at the former district that I was at as well. So I think that's pretty common practice there. So, well, anything else to add to chapter 3 before we cut the video off here?
I don't think so.
Thank you.
All right.